We're
I'm
there.
getting the Zoom up and running
Yeah,
too.
and there'll probably be two. They'll-
There
they'll
will
do
get
two of them.
get here on time. Or
Last
it's
phone.
late, it'll happen. Get all the early folks. Oh. Like, but Kelly wasn't here for the subcommittee meeting. I don't know if she's still gone. Kelly might be on vacation. Of that. Sounds good. The bulbs that are going around. Why? I still don't even have all my plane tickets. Well, I have one. I have
That
one
sounds
for
like
the-
spring, yeah, every time.
And it's the one way. No, I won't come back. I have vague. It's just,
They're acting like allergies, but maybe it's something else. I don't know.
That is exactly.
There's
what
something
felt
going
like
around.
today.
I would be
Yeah.
effed up the past 2 weeks. I'm like first just kind of feeling like I'm on like day 12. I feel like it's probably okay for me to be.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't know, I just got some congestion.
Yeah.
And now it's my fault.
Yeah, that's how it starts. Thanks for wearing a mask. It is also the beginning of like allergy season, too, so
Yeah.
Yeah, it's,
pretty hard now.
a couple years ago, I thought it was allergies and then proceeded to infect a third of our choir with COVID.
I've taken 2 COVID tests that said negative, but they were expired, so now I'm good for
I
sure.
think that's where we all are.
No, I'm not so sure, but I.
How's it going?
You had COVID? Or something else? Yeah, yeah. It's just.
Finals are-
It's scary. I had one of my final presentations today, so one more thing.
Yeah, I
that-
barely interacted with
Yeah.
people for like.
I was presenting on the city of Beaverton's housing production
So it's easy
strategy.
for me not to like, it's always, like, holy shit.
A little bit better with market rate, a little bit worse with affordable housing, like subsidized housing. So, we had some challenges there. So, yeah, it's definitely an interesting class, very applied stuff. Work with the city, and where they're at. The state of Oregon's been doing a lot of mandates to try to get.
My parents trying to try. They're going to France.
Wow, we can't really develop this here.
Yeah, especially when economics.
I'm the first like 10 days.
Most cities, or most countries have like a sizable like public fund.
Less
Like the 70s, the United States really hasn't been about that.
And so I was just gonna go, I have a friend at Fence.
Yeah, most developments are just private money, seeing potential for.
I was thinking of just going.
Oh, yes, some of them it's like literally like government have a pool of money to do it, and then like the Netherlands,
I'm like,
really strong like non-profit.
and actually, there's 3% of house apartment with the same exact. Which is, but I don't know if I'll get this. I might not even get this.
Yeah, I think most of the research we talked about in class showed that about 30%
Actually, like,
of the
when we have
population
people
will never be able to afford like market rate housing. So we need, and so we need some sort of
likely, you know.
for that 30%.
So I'm trying to figure out.
Dying off,
But there's.
they're all over.
Yeah, that's the other thing,
They got the little- some mortgages and.
There.
Yeah.
I was like 16.
Handcuffs and all that.
And any number of the spent online. Thinking in my head. Yeah. I used to go back for a single day.
Hey, everyone. You ready to get started?
Yeah,
All right. All right, let's call the meeting to order. Thanks for being here, everyone. I think we're missing a few folks. We've got a couple online.
Oh, yeah, I can bring us.
Yeah, so we can see them. Oh, we got a number of them. Hello, Kelly and Anya. Good to see you.
Someone answered that.
Well, thanks for being here for the March Active Transportation Committee meeting. as always, we've got a busy agenda, and so I won't spend too much time with just general introductions here, but we can move on to, we can start with public comment as always. And as always, we have just one public commenter signed up. It's Connie.
Well, this is gonna be a little different. Everybody knows what happened at 22nd and Hilliard. So I'm gonna talk about
Patterson,
that.
22nd
or
and
Patterson. And, when it happened, I had direct concern at the time that no one seemed to be addressing, and that was the closure of the YMCA affected the whole dynamics of traffic from 18th to 24th. And I think to go back, to remind yourself that Monday to Friday, from 5 in the morning till 10 at night, there were people coming and going from the Y. Saturdays and Sundays, 6 to 9. So previously we had a flow of hundreds of pedestrians and bikes and cars every day, staffers, users, and using the crosswalks, using the sidewalks, and going to and from all the different parking lots and everything else. So that was all day long. So people were dropped off. And so from 20th to 22nd, we have this constant flow, and it acted as a natural flower of traffic going down the street. That's before the sidewalk and the crosswalk and all of that. So we knew as local people, I've been going down that street for 50 years, that we either had to slow down from 18th all the way. And so my concern, when they had the Y closed down and then put at the end of 24th, is that you developed a straight shot down the street to the Y. And I really have a lot of questions. We have so much planning when someone builds something, but I don't know that we have our planning commission people and our transportation people cued into the reality of what happens when a major congestion source and traffic source ceases. So why don't we have planners or transportation doing that? And I have a question on why that never happened and why that wasn't addressed. I mean, go from massive congestion early in the morning to late at night to nothing. And then not see that that was going to be a problem for the traffic on that street. The apartments generate some foot and bike traffic, and there's relatively little going to the tennis center that still is there. So, you know, as I say, I've been crossing by bike and by foot on 22nd for 50 years and driving on Hilliard and Patterson for 50 years. And it seems like the traffic dynamics are so obvious. I just want to really ask, not this place, but I guess larger groups like the planners and transportation people. In the future, when we lose something, not just when we build something, when we decommission or close something, we have to address how that affects the traffic patterns. And so we don't end up having a speedway where before we had a sort of synthetically controlled traffic flow. So that's just my comment about 22nd.
Thanks, Connie.
Thanks, Connie.
And I really appreciate that. It's a good observation as to what may have changed. One thing that changed there. I realize my head's not in this apparently tonight. I realize I completely bypassed all of Willow's opening statement here. Some of which is no longer relevant because it's supposed to precede public comment, though Connie well knows the rules of public comment.
That's okay, you did great.
But is there anything else that you wanted to cover before we dive into the meeting as a whole?
I know, I noticed that you skipped my opening remarks.
did,
which I'm
I-
just dying to hear.
I completely
I say the same thing every meeting. But I think I should probably just go through the protocol because
Yes.
that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah.
I'll skip the public comment.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Willow Hamilton and I'm the City of Eugene staff representative for this meeting. Before the chairs convene the meeting, I have a few reminders and introductory words. The purpose of the Active Transportation Committee is to provide feedback to staff on projects related to walking and biking and to represent community and constituent interests in transportation planning decisions. Eugene City staff will consider recommendations from the ATC along with input from other members of the public during decision-making process. Please keep in mind that this meeting is being both recorded and live streamed, meaning it can be viewed on the City of Eugene Transportation Planning YouTube channel both right now and in the future. All verbal and written commentary will be held in the public record. We already did the public comment. So with that, I'll hand it over to the chairs to convene the meeting and start with our landing.
Yes, which, and the other way my head's not in it is I'm remembering now that you had asked if I could do the land acknowledgement for this meeting, and I completely spaced it until
that's
right
okay.
this second, but I will, it's meant to be short anyway, and I will just mention, you know, we've decided not to do our kind of standard red acknowledgement, but to bring something to share of relationship to the Native American communities in Oregon at the start of each meeting. And I just made, my daughter is here visiting, which happens also rarely now that she is finished with college. And it has reminded me of a book they studied in school up at Lewis and Clark, which I'll mention to everyone, which is on my reading list. If you haven't already seen it, I would certainly, from what I've heard, I would recommend it for your reading list as well. The Tribal Histories of the Willamette Valley by David Lewis. If anyone else has read this, Carl.
I read
Nodding.
it, I've watched it speak.
Yeah, okay. But apparently a very excellent overview of exactly what it says, the tribal histories of the Willamette Valley. I think it's something that most of us who aren't native are pretty unaware of. And I will toss that out as our
Perfect.
land acknowledgement piece for this evening. And
Thank
then
you so much.
And then we'll do better about getting the land acknowledgement assigned rotating, so everyone will get a chance to share something over the course of the next few months.
Yeah, and Charlie just did a perfect example of how we're trying to do our land acknowledgement, which is just bringing something to share with the ATC committee to sort of further our education and involvement around Indigenous issues. Thanks.
And hopefully the next time it comes to me, I'll be able to give a 30-second book report.
Right.
Yes, I will by then have actually read it.
Despite being unprepared, you were very prepared.
All right, next up, approving the January 2026 meeting summary notes. I hope all of you took a look and had some recollection of what we actually talked about 2 months ago. I would have a motion to approve from any member of the committee. Hollis moves to approve. Any, Sue seconds. Any changes, corrections? Anyone online, changes or corrections? All in favor, thumbs up. And any opposed? I think that was all thumbs up. We're good to go there. All right. So on to substantive work here. First up, the presentation about the LTD coordinated plan. And we have here Carrie and Daniel, Carrie from LTD and Daniel from LCOG, to chat with us about what that is, which I have to say, I myself don't have any idea, so. Yes, sure, you can treat at least one of us as being wholly ignorant and proceed
My
from there. All right.
If I could start with an introduction, I'm Daniel Collister. I'm Senior Planner at the Lane Council of Governments. This is regarding the coordinated plan. It's an LTD plan that we brought on LCOG to assist with the development. So it is in progress right now, but I'll turn time over to Carrie to start a presentation and introduce herself.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Carrie Asklar. I'm a planner at LTD. And LTD and LCOG are together updating our coordinated plan. And the coordinated plan is short for the Lane Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Transportation Plan. I'll go into that in a moment, but next slide. I just quickly want to say before diving into it that everything we do at LTD has to reflect our mission, vision, and values. So a little teaser is that the coordinated plan is our effort to look more closely at how transit services can better align with coordinated care organizations that serve older adults and people with disabilities. So just wanted to flash this on the screen and say that this is our way of living out our mission. Next slide. So what is the coordinated plan? It is a plan that every transit agency is required to have to receive a certain stream of federal money. So we've had a coordinated plan since about the 2000s. Our latest plan was from 2019, and we're just updating it now just to refresh it and make sure it's up to snuff. So we're building off of a good foundation with a lot of planning processes and relationships and projects that have been in the works, but we're just giving it a fresh update. As I mentioned, this plan focuses on improving transportation services for older adults and people with disabilities. So we're doing that by just inventorying what public transit services there are in the region. Looking at the needs of our stakeholders, looking at gaps and overlaps in coverage, and really looking at our priorities and strategies to invest in those services so that we're getting the most out of them that we can. And I mentioned that we're doing all this to help us apply for that specific federal funding stream. So it's required by the Federal Transit Administration. I do want to take a moment to kind of build a bridge between this plan and this active transportation committee, since it's a really specific type of plan. I think we all know that transit is a form of active transportation. Most everyone gets to bus stops by walking or biking. So I also just want to mention a lot of these projects within the coordinated plan aren't necessarily flashy, like new sidewalk or new shiny thing, but a lot of them are programmatic that really fulfills a gap in transportation needs. So it could just be providing that paratransit service so that someone who needs to get to a medical appointment can take one of our buses instead of asking a family member to drive them. So it's more so like the behavior shift type of programmatic projects. So before I go on, any questions about what this plan is and what we're doing? If not, that's okay. You can keep thinking.
So just to clarify, so, looking at the thing, so it's mainly about improving transportation service for older adults and individuals with disabilities. So, the broader spectrum of things LTD does isn't really a focus of this plan. Or,
Included, but not the primary.
okay,
Yeah. You have a question?
yeah, Alice.
Do you ride?
You said Red Source? Is it through Red Source?
Yeah.
It's a big part of this. You'll hear more about it in the presentation.
Well, you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. We have been working on this since about last summer, and so right now, we're coming to presentation to committees like this to present and get your feedback and just build awareness of this plan. We are about a little over halfway through, and we're hoping to have the LTD board adopt this plan later this summer. So just wanted to flash this on the screen to say we've been busy. We've been doing some work. Next slide. And I'll pass it off to Jan.
So this is a population distribution map of all of Lane County. Of course, Lane County is a big county with a large concentration of population towards central Lane County and a lot of rural population. And LTD is an agency that's charged with providing transportation services to all of Lane County. And as an agency that relies on public funding, which is really limited, there's some challenges that are presented with that. So it's obviously more cost effective to provide those services where population is dense, and providing services to rural communities can be cost prohibitive in some cases. Especially when, can we go to the next slide, please? Actually, the next two slides, they're very similar. This one shows same map, but just showing where older adults live in Lane County. The next map shows people living with disabilities in Lane County. You can see that there's a lot of the people that are the primary focus of this plan living outside of the metropolitan area. And in fact, it's the case in a lot of places in the country as well, but particularly here where we're focusing, there's a disproportionately high percentage of both older adults and people with disabilities outside of the metropolitan area, outside of incorporated cities. So that presents a challenge, right? An opportunity for LTD to look very carefully at what are the needs, what are the services, and we're doing their very best to try to coordinate those services as best they can to make best use of limited funding that's available to provide those services. So that's what this plan is really all about. Next slide. So part of this effort is providing an inventory of the services that exist. We've grouped these into 4 different categories. The fixed route bus service, so that's the LTD numbered routes, for example, but it also includes the Link Lane service that connects Eugene to Florence, the Rhodey Express, the Diamond Express. There are others. Demand response service. So here we have paratransit. This is Ride Source, but it also includes Cottage Grove Connector and rural shuttle services. When we say other services in Lane County, of course, we're highlighting taxis. It includes private taxi companies, but also TNCs like Uber and Lyft. And it also includes non-emergency medical transportation. The final group is services that connect into Lane County. So that's, as pictured here, the Point Cascades intercity bus that connects Eugene to Portland, but it's also Amtrak. It's also the new 99 Vine service connecting to Corvallis. Next slide, please. Here we show a map of Lane County showing where the fixed route and demand response services currently provide their services. And as big as Lane County is, and as limited as the funding is, this is a commendable effort. I think we're doing, good work here. But obviously, you compare this to the population distribution map, there are a lot of people that are being missed. And even people living within these areas, because you have a bus that comes by your house, doesn't necessarily mean that it's providing the service that you require or meeting all of your transportation needs. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, Ride Source is a big part of this. The intention of this plan, among other things, is to improve mobility for older adults and people with disabilities. That is the service that Ride Source provides, among others. They're an excellent service. They help people get to appointments, other connections, grocery shopping, people that have limited other options. However, it is geographically limited. Ride Source operates only within the metropolitan area. Next slide, please. So as part of the development of this plan, we've been doing a lot of outreach with public and stakeholders, doing a lot of engagement, presenting to a lot of groups like this, wanting to understand what are the needs. And we did put together a survey. We disseminated that generally, but also targeting those groups I mentioned earlier. We received some good responses. We participated in tabling events and have been going to committees like this. That's all served to help us understand what are the needs that the community has. We've augmented that data set with other existing data like surveys that LTD has done in the past, or Link Lane has a development plan. Ride Source has some data. There was an origin destination survey that LTD did a few years ago with a rich data set. We've used all of this to kind of understand what are the needs, what are the improvements that people are looking to have. How's it working out for them? All of that has helped to, next slide, please, helped us to identify these needs. Of course, they're all over the map, and we synthesized them and condensed them into these 6 categories. They're unserved or underserved areas. There's a big need for more availability of services, non-traditional services. Affordability is a big problem that we heard a lot. And then apparent lack of training or education about what services are available or how to use the services. And then a lot of concern over issues related to safety or additional accommodations beyond what's being provided now. So these needs help us to create a project list, which is included in this plan. Next slide, please. Which brings us to this. So part of the process is establishing priorities. Those priorities are for investments as funding to be implemented, to implement the projects becomes available. So this is the lens that we're looking at the projects through as funding is provided. These priorities have been vetted through our steering committee. They actually, if you're familiar with LTD's STIF program, that committee have priorities that are very similar to this. They are to maintain sustainable levels, service levels, viable operations. In other words, keeping existing services running well, responding to growth within existing services, so improving or expanding what you have. And then the third priority is responding to emerging community needs. So that's providing or creating new services. Next slide, please.
So, what this means, is that we're just taking a look at the projects that we've had and making sure that they're, doing the best they can to serve a wide variety of community needs. Each of these boxes represents a project from the 2019 plan, and all but one of them are still active today. So we're really just looking at, as Dan mentioned, what's going well today, where do we need to expand, and what emerging needs do we need to be thinking about? So we don't have time to go through all of these, but I do want to hit two plans, if you could go to the.
Real quickly,
next slide.
which of these is not currently running then?
The Pearl Buck Center preschool transportation.
Thank you.
Yes. So I mentioned two projects. I just wanted to give you a little snapshot of what these projects look like and to kind of bring all of this material together. So one project snapshot is the replacement or expansion of vehicles. So in the past, we identified a need to just maintain and improve our transportation services throughout the county and to manage those costs, just because there are a lot of services, there's a lot of needs, and things can get really confusing for users and really expensive for LTD really quickly. So we started implementing some coordination practices of being cost efficient with our vehicle purchases, doing cost sharing agreements and cost sharing and ride sharing for efficiency. Really leaning into some interagency partnerships and just right sizing the vehicle to match the service that it is. So we're not going to send a 60-foot articulated bus all the way out to Oak Ridge when we know that there's, we understand the ridership on that route to better match that vehicle. So what this translated to was LTD purchasing accessible vehicles and then leasing them out to others to operate so that we're just more efficient with our funds. And so this helped us to use our vehicles more efficiently and manage them and maintain them more efficiently as well. And that would be just across Red Source, the Roadie Express, the Diamond Express, and other vehicles. So
What's a cutaway bus?
cutaway bus is basically the size of the Ride Source, so it's a smaller bus. Yeah. And then the second project here is medical and non-medical transportation. This project was created to meet the needs of providing some unconventional services, providing somewhat specific transportation needs, but transportation needs that we saw kind of consistently around the area while managing those costs. So we did this by hosting a one call center with multiple transportation providers and services, practicing again that ride sharing practice, and then evaluating transportation needs and capabilities of our riders, just to make sure that we're right sizing the service that they need with what they're capable of doing, and also just coordinating with our agency partners. So this resulted in our Ride Source Center that's on 2nd and Garfield's, and we coordinate about 20,000 trips a month based on OHP eligibility. And these trips can range from well check appointments to life-sustaining care, and those can be local trips within the region, within the state, if you need to go up to OHSU in Portland for something specific. And we've even coordinated trips outside the states if they really need a specific type of care. So this phone call center really does a lot, and it's kind of our umbrella service for many different types of trips that we do. So that was a lot of information, but we really appreciate you listening, and just wanted to give this committee an update for what this coordinated plan is. So thanks for listening, and happy to open it up to any questions.
Sure, let me, before, we will want everyone's questions, but just real quickly, what kind of feedback from us was most useful to you for this plan?
Yes, it's a really great question. I think if you or folks in your family or folks in your community have any limitations as to limitations in terms of where coverage is not going, or if coverage is not expanded to a certain hour of the day, or if people don't know how to ride the bus, that's really helpful for us. So I know that was really vague, but because it's such a very kind of wonky and technical plan, we haven't really specified what feedback that we'd like to get. So
I think it's also,
yeah.
valuable for groups like this to just be aware that this is something, this is work that LTD does and they update regularly. It's something they're thinking about, they're planning for, and they have funds to implement projects like this. We're happy to return here regularly and report on progress or adding projects to this list, but being aware that this is the kind of work that LTD does and maintains.
Well, from the committee, questions, comments, Hollis? And Hollis does have an assistant here who can help make clear what he's asking. Also,
What about advice to
No.
Mount Pisgah?
Yes.
We could. We got. And.
There's two David's chairs for alter able riders to enjoy the trail system out there.
I'm perfect.
He's helping develop the trail
Um.
system to the top.
Then.
You have friends who don't have access to it, many friends.
I love the style of the I know that. Yeah. I'm not.
Let's talk about 8 classes
Right there.
a day. This summer.
Thanks, Hollis. I think we're gonna pause and see if we can get an answer to the question about thoughts on buses to Mount Pisgah or what like recreation, like if LTD services sort of recreational opportunities for people in this category.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought up access to Mount Pisgah because it is something that we've heard a lot and it's something that it is in the works, probably not this year, but I think next year is what we're aiming for. So it's coming. And I think it'll be a fixed route bus that we send out there.
Oh, really?
Thanks.
I'll add that a big part of our engagement with this is learning from people. What are the destinations that are important to you that aren't currently there? This is great feedback.
Yeah. I mean, Mount Pisgah, yeah, more than from just the community that uses RideSource would probably enjoy having that. It'd be great to have the chance to get out there.
Yeah, the bike route there is pretty challenging and difficult. So for anyone who doesn't drive, I think the bus route in Mount Pisgah.
Alice, one quick follow-up and then I can give everyone else a chance to ask as well.
Email.
Your email.
What
What email was you?
Great, awesome.
Yeah, if you have like more extensive thoughts and feedback on this, it's really perfect. Yeah, you do, cool.
Of course.
Thanks, Colin.
Well,
All right.
you have your eye online too, right? Just-
Yeah,
I don't, because we can't see you.
Yeah. they're-
Kelly,
they're
perhaps,
under-
Kelly might have a question,
Absolutely online.
Right.
just in
Um,
case Kelly. has-
oh, yeah, there was a
Thanks.
comment there, or, was that chat in the chat from Kelly, something that she was asking?
Not about this,
Oh, okay,
yeah.
all right,
We got
any other,
Sue and
Sue
Peter.
and then
Yeah,
Peter?
Peter was first. I
All right, Peter then Sue, sorry, didn't see who else.
Yeah, when we did the tour of Ride Source with the strategic planning committee, we noticed every part of that facility was pretty cramped and had to, like, it's gonna be difficult to expand when demand expands in the coming decades. Is that gonna be part of this plan, with all the issues with expanding Ride Source?
It's definitely a need that we've identified and we're kind of mobilizing internally to build our resources to expand that facility. I'll have to check if that is, that we'll have that in this plan.
I'd say the expansion of that facility is something that has been even on LCOG's radar for years.
Okay.
It's well identified.
Thanks.
I guess like my direct answer to you is regardless of if it's in this plan, it's something that we're working on.
All right, Sue.
Yeah, a couple questions. The first, kind of to follow up on what Hollis said, I had a friend who, had a stroke and wasn't able to drive for a while. She can now, and she's found that, she could get to the places that she needed to get to. But it really cut out of her ability to have a life, to go places that she just wanted to go, it was very limiting that way. So, my questions are, number one is, does this include people who are temporarily disabled, like if you just had a knee replacement or, so that you eventually will be able to get around on your own, if you can't for 6 weeks or a couple months or something? And then the second question is, how much does it cost to use Ride Source? Is that out of pocket or does insurance or something pay for that, or how much does it cost?
Yeah, so to your first question of if we have temporary eligibility for some of these services.
Yeah, for people who are temporarily disabled or.
Yeah, we do. And I guess this also gets to your second question, is that Ride Source, as I mentioned, is kind of like, it's a massive umbrella of different types of services. Like we have the paratransit, we have services, we have like Ride Source shopper shuttle for the older adults to go to the grocery store. We have very specific services that they all pull from different funding streams. So that's why we had that one call center to make it way less confusing about, do I call this person or that person if I want to take one trip to the store, if I just want to get to a medical appointment. So so we do have a temporary service for folks that have just temporary ADA needs. As for the cost of rideshare, if it's a paratransit ride, it's I believe it's $350 a ride because it's double the cost of a fixed fare route. And I think we do have fare capping enabled with that. But if it is a different type of ride, then it's the cost might vary a little bit, but we try our best to just minimize that cost burden on folks, just so that we can still enable people to live independently and not have that impact their choices in their life.
And the free bus pass that you get when you're over 65, and I presume with some disabilities, that doesn't chip in for this, or does it?
I think it does.
Is there a free bus program for being over 65?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think I know.
Yep.
April.
Celebrating.
Getting close there.
Let's go to Josh and then, back to Peter.
I guess I was curious about, you said you're looking at a specific like federal program or something, but what other funding sources aside from like fares? There, yeah, how do you get your money?
How do we get the money? It's a good question. So I mentioned that specific federal funding stream, it's called 5310, which is funds for services for people with disabilities and older adults. So that's there. We also have our STIP funding, which is statewide transportation improvement funds funding. And that's really more locally based and more tied to the region. Part of, yeah, I'm like trying to weigh how deep I get into this. But we do have other funding sources, in addition to those two that we can tap into.
Through LCOG, we administer the federal highways funding, so through that, so we can, like, for pretty much any and all type of project. And there's a lot of funding available, and when you do apply for those kind of projects, we do provide that funding.
It's kind of a follow-up to that before we get to Peter, that does, to what degree does RideSource compete with some funding for the fixed route service, or are those pots just completely separate? And
Different colors.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah. so there, you don't have to, the agency doesn't have to make decisions about which one you're going to put money into. The inflows are just completely dedicated to different things.
Yeah, there may be like a smidge of an overlap, but we don't want to be competing for those funds. And again, like, there are many different, there's a rainbow of funding out there, so like,
Yeah.
oftentimes it's just, it doesn't, one doesn't take away from the other.
Okay, good. Peter.
Yeah, so one of the things you mentioned was education, and just hearing now that there is temporary access to RideSource available. I didn't know that, and when my friend who lives in the very edge of town, like a mile away from a bus stop, broke their leg, and like they had a really hard time getting to school because of the University of Oregon. And I think it would be nice to maybe on the website or something have a clearer path to that sort of temporary approval. Because I did look up because I knew RideSource existed, but didn't know how that worked. And I wasn't able to find anything for someone who had broken their leg and needed help for 2 months. So that might be a gap there.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out.
I do wonder if it makes sense to connect with, like the major surgery centers in town, or like Slocum or something like that, where the doctors know that RideSource is an option for folks who have now are experiencing temporary disability, and they could point folks in that direction. Because when my husband broke the whole left side of his body, and he got a temporary disabled permit, but they never mentioned anything about like other options if he needed to get around independently. So just a thought.
Yeah.
Anything else from the committee at this point? All right, and you'll get us contact information so that Hollis, the police, can bury you with ideas.
Here, if they want to put it down, but
Oh, there we go.
I can send this presentation out to the community.
That'd be
so
great.
folks
Thank
have
you.
it.
Yeah, the Hollis, that slide will arrive in your email.
I'll send it.
All right. Well, thanks for thinking to come to. See, I'm super impressed with the list of projects that you did from 2019. Like that's astounding. That's really great.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you, appreciate your time.
Save 10 minutes. I want to let her talk about funding sources.
All right. The next item on the agenda, 2026 projects, programs, and policies. This is actually a little bit of a pickup from something we might have talked about during the retreat. Had we had a complete retreat. But you received in the email 4 pages from Willow. Projects, programs, and policies for 2026. This was actually a huge list. And Josh was just making a comment about how I wanted more time for this, and we just claimed 10 minutes, 10 extra minutes from the agenda, because this is a lot to talk about.
I see that you have it printed out.
I do have a printout. Would that be helpful for you?
While I present, it might just be helpful for me to refer
Yeah.
to some of the specifics. So like Charlie said, I sent you all 4 pages, which maybe you read, but I think it might be nice to just be able to talk about them and go over them with a presentation, which is a little bit more engaging, especially for people who learn auditorially and not by reading a boring document.
And I should say as part of, if something really jumps out to you that you want to make sure we have a chance to talk about, be sure to flag that in your notes as well as goes through it, and we can try to get those things on future agendas.
Yeah. So we kind of have,
I also want to note that like a few of them
Oh,
are
go
pretty,
ahead.
I just want to note a few of them are like pretty relevant to our next topic on the agenda, so. They should absolutely bleed, and also we can save time that way by integrating them. If you notice
Right.
things you have comments about.
because our next topic on the agenda is reviewing the transportation safety forum that we all went to as part of the retreat and kind of reviewing the way we did the retreat as well. So with that transportation safety forum sort of in our minds and just the desire from the community, not just the folks in this room, but from a lot of people across the city asking for safer transportation system. I think in some ways, this document is not a response to that, but adds more information to that conversation because the city is working on a lot of stuff. Okay, so there are kind of some main categories of the work that my team does. There's capital projects from a planning perspective. That's the first section on the sheet that I shared with you all. That's stuff that's in the works. It usually doesn't make it onto this like for 2026 or for 2027 or whatever until it's moved into at least a phase where we are talking about it and we have some money for it and we're gonna eventually be building something. So there's beyond what's on this list for 2026 capital projects planning, there's like a bunch of other projects that haven't quite made it into the like fully funded stage yet, or even partially funded, that wouldn't make it on this list, but might make it on next year's list or the year after that. Then we have capital project construction. So that's stuff that has gone through the planning process and is in the pipeline for getting built. I'm pretty excited about the list for 2026. If this stuff all actually does get built, which tends to be a tricky thing with just the way construction works, but if it does all get built in 2026, we're looking at like a really good year for safety projects. Then we have studies and long-range plans. That's when the city gets money to do something that gets a little bit more in depth on planning, but doesn't actually have any money for building anything. So we'll talk through some of those, and long-range plans are similar, where we're doing like long-term planning, but we don't have any money for building. That stuff does help us get money. So when we do these studies and these long-range plans, we can use them to apply for funding. So they're still really important, even though sometimes nothing really happens at first from them. Then we have policies that we're working on. These are things that I kind of put studies, long-range plans, policies, and programs into one, but they are sort of 3 distinct things. So I put them on different slides this time. Okay, yeah. And then we have programs. So programs are what the transportation options team mostly works on my team. So that's like events and programmatic things that kind of help advance active transportation in the city. Okay, let's go over the capital projects planning. I feel like capital projects planning and then the policies and long-range plans and studies is probably more what ATC is interested in. So I'll go through these a bit in depth, and then when we get to capital projects construction, I'll kind of just show you some quick photos because those things are already in the pipeline and your feedback on them isn't necessarily super relevant because they're kind of already planned and going to be.
And some of them we already gave feedback. Oh,
And you, yeah, ideally, and I think in many cases you have already talked to us about. Okay, so for capital projects planning, we have 2026, 2027 bond projects and 2028 bond projects. They kind of go through multiple years. These were identified by the Move Huge planning process that we did in 2021, 2022. They're usually smaller projects. So they're like a crosswalk here and a sidewalk infill here. They're kind of these small projects that we're really lucky to have funding for. Like the residents of Eugene said yes to that. And most cities do not have the money to just do all these little things that make a really big difference to our network. And it can be really easy to focus on these like big home run projects, but the little stuff goes a really, really long way. And so I'm just like really grateful that we have money for that. When there is a larger planning component to one of these Move Huge projects, then they become they kind of pop out of Move Huge and become a more separate project, like Polk Street, for example. That was identified and funded through Move Huge and with the bond, but it's large enough and impactful enough that we sort of popped it out so it can become its own planning process. So when that happens, we're here, we're out in the community talking to folks. When they stay smaller, like some of the ones in the construction for this year, then we kind of just move forward with them and talk to more like directly affected stakeholders. The next project that's in planning, 6th and 7th Avenue pilot project. This is looking at removing a travel lane in the downtown area on 6th and 7th to turn it from 4 lanes into 3 lanes and add parking and drop off lanes as well as bump outs at all the intersections to shorten that crossing distance. It's not likely that there will be any signal upgrades with this project, so the like long waits at 6th and 7th when you're trying to cross it will continue to be a thing just due to the signals having to be on timing. All of the signals in downtown are old, so they can't have recall. They're just on a fixed time schedule, and so that's why oftentimes you're standing there at Olive or whatever it is, and no one's coming for a long time on 6th and 7th, but you just have to wait for that timing to move through. But removing a travel lane and adding parking, we haven't done a ton of outreach on this yet because it just hasn't come up in our work plan yet, but we're expecting that to happen in 2026. Hopefully, if we have the staff in. Okay, Bertelson and Bailey Hill roundabout. This is kind of on the edge of town, but this is an area where there's a high number of traffic crashes, particularly from people making turning movements. You might have read in the document I shared, let's see, which page am I on? That it's kind of like a high-speed or high-speed rural route comes in and meets sort of a slower speed urban street. And so it creates a conflict there where speeds are an issue and turning movements are an issue. And when those two things are an issue, a roundabout is often a really good option because roundabouts reduce turning conflicts because you're only ever going in one direction and they slow speeds. So when we have like lots of turning movement conflicts, we're like, okay, roundabout might be a good option here. We do some studies. This one so far we found seems like a really good option. There's also a trailhead and parking lot happening for Wild Iris Ridge. The parking lot is on the other side of the street from the trailhead. So putting a roundabout in with slow speeds and a nice crosswalk with a median could really benefit this area.
You mean a new parking?
New parking lot. Yeah, existing parking lots on the same side of the street. Yeah, but there's gonna be a new parking lot going in, because that park has become very popular and the current parking lot is very small and insufficient.
Ooh, you know, there's no bike parking there. I always, yeah, sorry. I always
That's a great
lock-
comment.
Lock to a fence when I bike.
Okay,
there.
yeah, that's a really good comment. I'll make sure to record that. Feel free to pause me at any moment and make comments like that or ask questions as I'm going through. Speaking of turning movement crashes and high speeds, Division Avenue is also getting roundabouts. This one's kind of right in between planning and construction. Like it hasn't quite dropped into the construction phase yet, so it's still in the planning phase. But we're hoping to see it move into construction down the line. We're looking at adding 2 roundabouts on Division Avenue.
Wow.
You have a question?
Just asking, you're asking where, Hollis?
Where on Division?
Yeah.
I wish I knew the cross streets better, but it's like,
It's kind of east of Delta Oaks. right?
yeah, it's
So-
next to the Fred Meyer.
Yeah.
In fact, I believe that one of the roundabouts, which is kind of unique, one of the roundabouts will be on Division. Lone Oak. Lone Oak is the name of the street. So Division, Lone Oak, and then the entrance to Fred Meyer will be one of the other roundabout entry and exits, which is kind of unique to create that situation with the roundabout. But I think it will be really effective because right now people are always trying to turn left out of there and getting into car crashes and in some cases severe car crashes.
Yeah, ignore what I said about Delta Oaks.
You were thinking Lone Oak. That's
Yeah,
where it came from. Okay. You've heard plenty of talk about Franklin Boulevard, but it can't not make it onto the list. It's on the list every single year. One day it will move to the construction phase. We're constantly still planning for this. It is kind of a once in a generation transportation investment. It's upwards of $20 million. So we really want to get it right. And I think that's why it's been in planning for so long, because we're constantly reevaluating and relooking at it and making sure that when we do finally break ground on this project, we're going to be building the thing that works the best for our community. So that's why it's been second planning for a long time, and probably will be for another year or so before it moves into transportation or into construction.
Is it true updates are coming in May?
Yeah, we should have like, we basically sent the roundabouts to a third party and we were like, okay, just double check these for us, because we're hearing so much concern from the community about adding roundabouts there that we wanted to get in even like another company to look at them and evaluate them and make sure that they would work for Franklin. So we should have that report coming soon. To be like, this is what they say.
Is it 4?
How many roundabouts?
Isn't it 4?
So right now we have funding for phase 1, that's the 20 million some dollars, and that's only the 2 roundabouts. So if we want to build the additional 3 to 4 roundabouts that we've looked at for the corridor, we're gonna have to get another 20, 30.
And those two are
Which two?
which intersection?
The 2 intersections that we have funding for that we are looking to do with the first phase are at Walnut and 13th.
Okay.
Walnut and Franklin, which is near Market of Choice and the current MX stop. And then,
And the bike connection on the other side.
and the bike connection through the Knickerbocker Bridge.
Yeah.
And then the other one is at Moss and 13th, which currently is not really a proper intersection. 13th comes out and connects to Franklin, and Moss comes down and it's offset.
Yeah.
So the roundabout will basically move the intersection over so that 13th crosses at Moss. And then Franklin goes through, which will work really, really well for all of the businesses on the other side of Franklin that the students can't really access for like blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks.
Right.
There'll be a new access point.
Yeah, that's good. I just recently tried to go across there. That's, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Something's needed there.
Frogger in
Yeah.
here. Especially for Tracktown Pizza, like a lot of students are trying to get to Tracktown Pizza and it's like you gotta walk 10 minutes in one of the directions
Yeah.
to cross and then back over. So there's people just sort of like hopping the median. The MX is going by fast and heavy, so it's like, it's just very dangerous. So a new intersection there will be very exciting. So yes, we should have new updates coming in May and hopefully run another open house for the public to come and hear about sort of like where the city has landed and sort of final, more or less final designs before we move into construction, which is very exciting. Next, we have Oakway Road in Cal Young, also been talking with ATC about this for a long time. This project was initially just a grant for protected bikeway on Oakway Road. As we did our like super initial community engagement, we were hearing from the community that like, that's cool, but if we don't address Cal Young and the Coburg intersection, like, it's just not really gonna do what we want it to do. So we kind of paused and tried to patch together some more funding and broaden the scope of the project so that we could kind of look at it more broadly. So it's been long delayed, but it should be getting picked up again soon. And with that sort of broader scope. Not sure if we have money to address the broader scope, but at least we can involve it during the planning process and get sort of a plan in place that isn't as narrow as Oakway Road.
Yeah, that was one the MPO didn't fund.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
First. We'll ask again next year. Okay, path striping and signage. This is also something ATC helped with maybe a year ago or so. We looked at a lot of different locations along the path system where there's like high congestion, maybe turning movement conflicts, areas where people are using up the whole path and not staying to their side, areas where there are intersections of the path with no street signage, so you have no idea where that little side path goes. So on here, you can see, our online folks are blocking it just a little bit. There we go. See this Hillcrest Drive? That's really unique on our path system for it to be like on the path, there's a little side path going off, but there's a street sign there that actually tells you where it would go, which is super cool, and we want more of that. So we have this project where ATC has helped us identify all those places, and we're just still pursuing funding to get money to actually stripe and sign the path system better. This is also gonna be a phased project, so we should be able to add more signage and more striping, but
So the striping that Shane talked to us about last year, there's not actually money to do that, or is he, did he already have money to do some?
no, we don't have any money.
Oh, so that was
Yeah.
just always a goal,
Always.
an
goal.
aspiration, not a funded project.
Right, and the path system is so integral to transportation in Eugene that our team's really trying to figure out like what a longer term solution would be for funding for the paths in many different ways, including maintenance, but also signing stripage, that kind of thing. We'll see what we decide to come up with, and pull money out of a hat somewhere.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know if you all like followed what was happening in the legislature, but they pulled a bunch of money from their community paths program, which was a source of funding.
Yeah, a bit of a blow, especially as I get into construction. We have 2 projects being built this year from community paths. So like that program funded projects in our community. It's really sad to see funding not go through for that. Polk Street bike lanes, you've all heard plenty about this. Decision hasn't been made yet because we're in the community engagement process. The community engagement will be wrapping up at the end of March, and then my team will go through and review sort of everything we heard during community engagement and what we got through the survey. We have an intersection analysis coming from a consultant, which will look at whether or not we can drop those turn lanes in order to continue the bike lane through, or if we have to drop the bike lane and keep a turn lane. So that's something we're evaluating.
Greenway.
We know your stance on the matter, so we'll see kind of what the traffic analysis says, and then we also will have a parking report and a community engagement report. From there, staff will write a memo to leadership saying like, here's everything we found, here's what we recommend, this is our staff recommendation, and then leadership ultimately makes the decision. When I say leadership, that's the city engineer, the assistant city manager, and the public works director, and maybe even the city manager, depending on how high the decision feels like it needs to go.
Well, I just mentioned, we're up to 6:28 already.
Okay.
Only about 7 more minutes
Okay.
scheduled for this item.
I think that this is kind of a meat,
Yeah.
so.
Just, I wasn't sure how much, there's a lot more on those 4 pages, so I just.
There is,
in
yeah,
case
okay, thank
there were
you,
things
thank
you wanted
you.
to get to.
I'm over talking about these.
Yeah.
These are the kind of the exciting ones. West Bank Path, we're looking at finalizing plans for that and constructing it next year. West Bank Path extension up to Santa Clara Community Park, which kind of bleeds into the Wilkes Drive pedestrian enhancements project, which is along Wilkes Drive, which is where Santa Clara Community Park is. Currently, there's a shared use path along Wilkes, but it ends at Madison Middle School. And we're looking at kind of trying to extend it all the way to Santa Clara Park, which would then connect into the West Bank Path extension, and then doing some crossings. So those are planning projects that we're working on this year. We also have a bunch of construction projects, which I just have some photos of. So we've got several RRFBs going in at a bunch of different locations. At 15th, across Patterson and Hilliard. We have one going in, let's see, at Good Pasture Island Road. Crossing at Happy Lane, and then I think Prairie Mountain School along Royal Avenue is getting an RFB. And then I think one more is being installed somewhere else on this list. Oh yeah, on Burnson Road, we'll get another RFB. So we've got several going in at different locations. We're gonna be repaving and striping 24th Avenue to buffered bike lanes, which will eventually become protected bike lanes. So that's happening this year. We have the Bethel Drive path and the North Delta path are both hopefully starting construction this year. So that's what this little path photo represents. Broadway Phase 2 is happening. So we're dropping a travel lane and adding a planting strip and a sidewalk. The Lincoln Protected Bikeway should be built this year, which is very exciting. Been talking about that for several years. We're going to be adding some floating bus stops with little sort of mini protected bike lanes behind them along River Road in a couple different locations. Which will be new, and the buses will be like stopping in the travel lane instead of half stopping in the bike lane, half stopping in the travel lane, and causing like a weird traffic pattern. Where people were like swerving around instead of just stop in the travel lane, and then if cars want to pass, they just properly merge into the other lane to pass. And then it also helps LTD because instead of them having to merge back into traffic, they just go. So all around, really excited about the floating bus stops on River Road. We'll see kind of what happens when we install them. And then that last picture is of Howard Avenue. But we're doing basically like another sort of Howard Avenue on Spring Creek Drive, which will serve Aubrey Park Elementary School. So this is a really like awesome sort of intervention for more rural type streets that don't have sidewalks. We create sort of a just narrow walking biking space. This one won't be with concrete, it will be with bolt down materials, which is another thing the community's been asking for a lot, is like do the projects faster, use temporary materials. So this project is moving much faster than Howard. Howard took a really, really long time. This one we're just gonna be able to do pretty quickly by comparison. So that's construction. There are even more projects that are listed in here, but I felt like those are kind of the highlights. This is a very boring looking slide. I don't have any photos about studies and long range plans that felt compelling, but we're doing several. We've got the River Road and Highway 99 corridor study. You all looked at the scope for that, and we did a bunch of edits when we were up on the 3rd floor. So we incorporated those edits and we have a consultant on board now, so we're doing that study. We've got the first and last mile safety study. This is also sort of in partnership with LTD, looking at like LTD runs the stops and the frequency, but the mile or so that the average person walks to and from a bus stop is city. That's our job. So this is looking at every bus stop and kind of looking at a mile radius of that and looking at what interventions could be made to improve those bus stops. We don't have funding to do improvements, right? It's just a study, so it's kind of figure that out and then hopefully we can apply for funding. Also the Vision Zero intersection study, this looks at close calls. So we put a bunch of cameras up, we looked at like 10 or so intersections, and we saw, you know, what is happening at that intersection, what close calls happen, so we can try and make interventions before somebody gets hurt. We're doing the transportation system plan update, that's probably just barely starting in 2026, and then we'll hit the ground running more in 2027, 2028. But this is like the once every 20 years, like giant transportation system plan update. That is a really big opportunity for us to really like write down what we want to see. So when the time comes for us to really hit the ground running on this update, like I think the ATC will be pretty heavily involved in that. And it's really like our
We
chance.
definitely want to be.
Yeah, it's kind of our chance to really like direct the city because it's, you know, it's an adopted plan by council, so it holds a lot of weight. Electric vehicle infrastructure plan, we've got kind of a small amount of money to look at how to add more EV charging
Who's
stuff.
the point person on that? Is that Logan?
It used to be Logan, it's switched to Brandon, who's our new planner.
To Brendan?
Brandon White, WHYTE.
We've got him researching diverter policy.
And we've got him researching the murder policies,
Yeah.
which staff member Brandon White will look into this. This is what happened with sidewalks when ATC was like, we want stuff to happen with sidewalks, and we were like, eventually we'll have a new staff person and we'll give it to them. And then Jody came on board and we gave it to her, and a lot of cool stuff has happened. So that's what we're hoping will happen with Brandon, is that someone with capacity can take this on. He's also working on Franklin, so I don't know how long his capacity will last. But hopefully he has a chance to look at the diverter policy and help us figure out, you know, just what the path forward looks like. Speaking of sidewalks, we launched a pilot program in 2025 for reduced sidewalk repair. This was extremely successful. We basically had all these paving projects, we're already mobilizing, people are out there doing sidewalk ADA ramps and paving, and we sent a letter to every property owner along that stretch being like, hey, we're already here. If you want, we can repair the sidewalk in front of your house for a really reduced cost compared to a contractor or working with the city. And we had like several people for each paving project basically be like, yeah, I want to do that, and paid a really like way lower cost to get their sidewalk repair in front of their house. And so we're doing that again in 2026 with the upcoming paving projects. And it's definitely added extra workload, but it's also been really successful, and it felt like a really sort of easy way for the city to respond to like, we need better sidewalks. So we're excited about it, and we should have a report out soon that describes sort of more of what that process was like and where we tend to go with it. Jody will come to ATC and discuss next steps of kind of all around sidewalk stuff this spring, because she's also going to be talking to council. Okay, here's my last slide. This stuff's the easy stuff, programs. We do a bunch of events. We've got new movers and fun routes to school, which is we're calling our farts program. Which the kids love, which is why we named it that.
Everyone loves that.
Everyone loves it. It's hilarious. I made a logo for it though, and everyone's like, that's too on the nose. So I need to make a more subtle logo. Bike share 2.0 planning is happening. We're working with LTD again because bike share is sort of like two-wheeled transit. To look at what the next stage of bike share is. Our bike share has been super successful. Like we are just straight up hitting it out of the park with bike share. Every year the ridership goes up. People are using it, like the nonprofit we have running it is doing so well. So what does it look like for us to add electric bikes? What does it look like for us to bring back e-scooters? What does it look like for us to expand our service area? That kind of stuff. We have our classic events, e-bike expo, Bright Parade, breakfast at the bike bridges. One of our team is working on accessible taxis. Right now, if you have a disability and you don't have someone who can take you to the airport, it's pretty challenging to get out there or to get home from the airport. So we're looking at trying to get some taxis that can make that process a lot easier for folks with disabilities.
That's.
Okay, last thing I've got is bike parking. We've got a program to improve bike parking on private property. So that means if there's a business that has a bike rack, previously, there wasn't really any way for them to fix it other than just to spend their own money and put a nicer bike rack in. And the city's trying to work on a program where we can sort of at lower cost or potentially even free, get them a nice staple rack instead of whatever random rack they picked up at Bring or whatever that they decided to bolt down. So, okay, I'm done.
Thanks,
That's
Will.
it. So my team's doing a lot. And every year when I make this list, I'm like, this is so much stuff. We're only 10 people and it's really exciting to see everything that we're working on. And also all the things.
Cool. And it's great that you seem to gradually add people, so that this,
Yeah.
you know, it used to be 8 people. Great, thank you. So we're a couple of minutes into our break, and so rather than pausing for, I think we should go ahead and take the break.
Yeah.
If anyone saw something on here that they really want to talk about, come talk to me or Josh about it, and I can talk to you, Hollis, and find out what yours is. Yeah, take let's keep it a little shorter, maybe 3 minutes to grab a snack and run to the restroom.
Bike parking have opportunities to nominate businesses. That only have wave rack.
Really, you know, I went and
Yeah.
testified at that meeting, and it's like they listened to my
Much arguing, you're just.
All right. We are running just a hair behind time, but, let's, is everyone back? I think everyone's back. Let's pick up the agenda, first agenda item after the break, the Transportation Safety Forum and ATC Retreat Debrief. So, all of you were there, except for Carl. Maybe we'll open it for some general comments first, and then we may talk whether there's something specifically we'd like to do in response to the forum. And the capital projects subcommittee provided a draft letter that we worked on that all of you should have received. If you read the email that I sent to you. But first of all, just general thoughts. So, we didn't do the retreat we normally do, but we did get an hour of socializing over cafe yum bowls. And then went to the forum. How did that feel for everyone? And maybe Willow, for this, we could pull up the folks online so we can
Yes.
see them.
Anya had to head out.
Oh, Anya headed out, just Kelly. All right. I shouldn't say just Kelly. Yay, Kelly. So any just general thoughts about any of it? Did the interruption of our regularly planned schedule work for you? Was that a valuable thing to have done? What did you get out of the evening that you most value? Thoughts?
No, I'll jump in. Just being a new member, I thought it was a really valuable experience to go through. Seeing the community come together and so many different voices, and to turn something that felt like such a dark, sad topic into something that felt really empowering. I thought the groups that led it had amazing topics, and they kept it positive. They kept it, how can we do something good out of this? And so I thought for me, it was really worthwhile.
That's great to hear, particularly from the new person, from one of the new people who might have otherwise benefited from the retreat. Any other thoughts? Yeah, thanks, Nicole. That's great.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I just, I think I would have felt cheated if we had our retreat and weren't able to go to the community forum. So I think that was a good decision to do that. And it was kind of cool to me to see not only a big turnout, but not the usual suspects. I mean, there were people I knew there. It's like, that never had anything to do with walking or biking as far as I know, but it really brought them out. So it was a new crowd of people and a lot of new energy, and I thought it went very well.
Great. I might say, I went to one of the Polk Street public gatherings too, and there were actually an awful lot of not the usual suspects there too, also very interested in the walking, biking opportunity and slowing speed of folks.
Yeah.
Other thoughts? Anyone?
Oh.
All right. Well, I would just say I was really excited to see when they had the tables present, quite a number of ATC members were representing their tables there. which I thought was really cool. Obviously, all of you dived into the discussion right away, and there were quite a few prominent community members there as well, in addition to just a wide variety of folks that you don't normally see. I was impressed with the degree to which community leadership turned out for that particular event. Yeah.
I did have one little bit of feedback. First of all, I thought it was great substituting that for the normal retreat. Well, I did have one sort of impression when I left, which is that I felt there was, I really thought all the content was great and the speakers were amazing, but I felt there was a little acknowledgement of the actual recent accidents in terms of actual specifics about how they had happened and what was going to be done to address them. And I understand the intent was not to be super reactive to specific incidents, but a lot of the actions and suggestions felt very general, where I actually left without actually still understanding like what had happened or, what specifically had caused those accidents. And I didn't feel like an impression that the city was directly responding to what had happened because it wasn't really being brought up. It was kind of acknowledged at the beginning, but then it moved into more general, infrastructure improvements. So I don't know, there could be very good reasons for that I don't understand, like why it was structured that way, but that was kind of an impression I had.
Yeah. Part of it may be that the investigation hadn't been finished.
Right,
With specific guys, so they didn't,
I understand. we have to
there
be
was
careful-
nothing
We have to be
official in
careful with
terms of that
communications, probably.
particular accident, though that wasn't true of the ones before it. Or at least the earliest one, the one from back last August or September, that investigation was finished.
I think the thing about that event that was different is that the city had nothing to do with it.
Mm.
Like, we weren't a sponsor, we didn't organize it, we didn't put it on, which I think is actually the first time kind of ever that an active transportation event occurred that the city did not do. And we were really excited and super encouraged by that, because it feels like there's maybe a groundswell happening of people who are engaging with transportation safety. But I do think, to your point, people were kind of wondering where the city was sort of at that event. Like, there was no one made a statement about, like the city's perspective on this issue or what our plan is to do about it. Because it was a grassroots event that just happened from all these community organizations. And a lot of us attended. I was there, Rob was there, Logan was there, ATC went. But yeah, there was no formal moment for the
But I
city.
should say,
members.
not from city staff, but the mayor was
Right.
there representing the city, and she had a big role to play,
Mhm.
so. Did it-
But she didn't speak like.
Right, but she didn't try to explain the city's
Her
perspective.
policy
Yeah.
or anything.
Yeah.
I still think it's valid.
No, it's a good point, and I do think there, and I should say the organizers, particularly BEST, Better Eugene Springfield Transportation, has since that forum been trying to corral the different organizations that were involved in putting it on into coming up with some specific things that they can work on collectively and try to come up with sort of the follow-on that would make it more specific, as opposed to getting together to talk and without the clarity and sort of like, what exactly is the thing we're trying to fix and how are we going to do that? So I think that's coming, but more slowly than I fear people wanted.
But you're moving towards that here.
And we're moving, and at least the capital project subcommittee sat down and tried to advance the conversation, and maybe we could put that letter up now if are there any other general responses? First of all, good thought.
I can always I think people will have them, I will, but I think there's no reason to not merge it into your.
Okay, yes, and we need to keep going because we've got, I guess this sort of flows into the next agenda item.
Yeah. Well, I do
Um,
think, just thinking about like the retreat and what happened, I just wanted to thank everybody for being super flexible and reading your emails. And coming to convey, because I was really worried. I was like, I sent the emails. I didn't necessarily hear from everyone that they like received the correspondence and we're going to like do this whole change of plan. So just really grateful that everyone was able to make that shift so fast and was so like excited and flexible to do something differently. So just gratitude there.
Good point. Yes.
Yeah, very good.
Do you want me to pull up the
Yes,
letter?
so let's pull up the letter.
I got it ready. I can
All right.
zoom in a little bit.
So just to be clear, so this came out of the capital project subcommittee, which is why it has kind of that bracketed as maybe the messenger here or the whole active transportation committee, if the whole active transportation committee likes it. Capital project subcommittee is Ryan, me, Sue, Hollis, and Anya. Worked on this. And I could let one of the others take the lead, but since I guess I did most of the original text drafting, I'll just mention that, we talked a lot about, the idea behind the Transportation Safety Forum was not necessarily to focus in on the one accident, but to talk broadly about how to make things safer for transportation in Eugene, particularly for bicyclists, pedestrians, active transportation users. But talking about what kind of response we could make, we ended up thinking that maybe Patterson actually would be a good model for how we can respond to these kind of safety needs. It illustrates a number of issues, which we itemize further down the letter. And there are a number of, potentially good interventions that the city could try there to make things better. One of which I might add is already on the project list, which are the beacons at the rapid flashing beacons at 15th that are already, as we just heard from Willa, scheduled to go in this year, and nearby the bicycle cycle at 18th and Hilliard. But the other theme that kind of came out of our discussion was that, wanting the city to embrace this idea of doing something quickly, like let's, Willa mentioned that in reference to another project too, but let's not wait, for a year of study, year of planning, getting funding for a big capital project to make a change. If we have a place that clearly is a safety issue, can we, let's develop the systems and processes we need to make something happen much, much faster than that. And so we really wanted to emphasize that in the letter too. And I'm not sure that, because Sue kept pushing us that direction. And I'm not sure we called that out well enough here. And I could see some room for editing to make it clear that that's sort of one of the two big points here. But that's kind of what's in this letter. Did I leave anything out? Any other members of the committee in terms of a general description of? All right, then, I don't know, responses from the rest of the ATC. Is this a useful approach? Do we want to? Did anyone read it? Well, we'll go to Peter and then Josh.
Yeah, thanks for making this. Really appreciate your comments here. Two things I would love to see added. One, you mentioned paint bollards and other readily materials. One thing I'd love to see the city of Eugene use more is like concrete planters. I see it used in a lot in like quick build projects in other cities. And like, they don't even need to be bolted down. Like, it's just put a concrete planter there and like a car's not gonna hit it. And it's big, it's easy to miss, or it's easy to see. Might be another use. And the other thing is, with our conversation of how long these processes take to happen, one thing I saw on Agate Street was able to go a lot faster because of collaborating with the University of Oregon, and they have a big stake in this. And so perhaps sharing the cost or something else, I think there might be appetite with the University of Oregon Transportation to do that, and they have their own pools of funding. So that might be a good idea for this project.
And maybe if we're generalizing it, wherever you can find someone to share the cost, we've used often that example of the YMCA stepping in and funding, a traffic study and stop signs, at Patterson and right, or Fifth Street Market, it could be whoever the interested party is, in this case, the university, because of the graduate student housing that's right there. Okay, good thoughts. All right, let me do Josh first, and then you want to do Kelly first? Okay, Josh wants to hear from Kelly first. Go ahead, Kelly.
Oh, I just wanted to say I put a couple thoughts in the chat, and I just so they get seen while we're on the topic. But I drive down that street almost every day on the way to pick up my son, and there are posters that are out that are memorializing the student, and they do seem to be having an effect. People are driving more slowly on that street. And so I wonder if there's a way to talk with Best or their partners about, buy a bunch of yellow poster board. And it's a short term, if it rains, whatever, they're ruined. But that's maybe something in the very short term that could help people at least feel somewhat empowered while these conversations are top of mind.
Yeah, we can add that one along with the concrete, the planters, to the list of things that could be done right away. Josh?
Yeah, I had a couple things, which I liked everything in here. I guess I'm open to being wrong, but I almost think you can't do anything to Patterson and not also do it to Hilliard. And if we're asking, like, that's just something I would say, they're the same, and the city even knows that as they're adding rapid flashing beacons and decided, well, we have to do it at Patterson and at Hilliard. So. That's one thing. And my other comment was almost just. I don't know how to put this in letters or whatever, you could go on different routes, when we were talking about sidewalks, like last year. We couldn't come up with like just specific, this is more infrastructure, it is easier to actually be very specific. But I wasn't opposed to like kind of demanding feedback from staff a little bit. And I'm just constantly like actually not satisfied with the logic behind why some of these things can't be done. And I'm just, I think that. Not like just our transportation planning staff, like that's not like an attack at transportation planning staff, but like the city and the staff plan, maybe even the city manager really actually, if it's under someone, it's not just, you know, planning, it's engineering and it's like someone even higher up, just why these things seem. Some of these things that are actually very cost effective, what our logic is for not, why you can't just close a lane temporarily to try something. But like it's semi-related. Peter had brought up the idea of closing a lane on 6th Street recently, which we're planning on doing in the future anyway. And there's been there's a heightened foot traffic over there due to courthouse activity. And there have been people hit by cars over there, whether they were participating in First Amendment protected activities or just walking, like stuff has happened, and especially heightened when there's like tear gas and stuff, but also just when there's more people over there. EWEB was doing some work over there recently, and it was a little scary. Anyway, they're just seem like they're just classic safety reasons where the smart safety choice would be to temporarily just try out closing a lane. And we choose to spend resources on all kinds of things. And we ask the chief of police what their safety choice is. And we don't just, what we statistically know would be a safety choice would be to, let's just try closing this lane. And we don't do it, and I don't get why there's not someone explaining why we really couldn't just try that for 2 weeks, a month.
Well, and I think one thing we need to adjust on the letter maybe a little bit is just specifically to ask for a response, you know, what can the city do? And, you know, is there a reason we can't do some of these things? And making it clear that we do want a response from someone.
That should be the letter.
Yeah,
What is the path on this? This goes to transportation planning or?
this would just go,
We don't send anything about planning, but planning, you know, themselves. Be like, you know, these guys have some really good plates. Point city manager.
Sue?
Well, just kind of following up on what Kelly said, first to put it in the context, we don't really want to make this specific to Patterson Street because we don't want to have to wait for somebody to die before we fix a given street, and then somebody dies there, so we fix that, you know. But, you know, so that's the context, but there's some organization, I don't remember who it was, but they have the concept of emergency streets, and it's like when there is a fatality or a serious accident, they immediately
Correct.
make some very visible, you know, change to it, just to draw consciousness to it. It may only stay for 2 weeks, but make it very visible, because this is an emergency. We want everybody to know, this is the place where somebody died. And, you know, maybe it would turn out to be something that could stay, maybe not, but at any rate, in the context of an emergency intervention, not just, oh, we ought to fix that street.
Thanks, Carl.
Oh, sure. I'm wondering, is it so much the number of lanes and whether it's 2 ways? I understand the
Yes.
rationale for why, yes. Because isn't the prioritization of automobiles really the core problem that we're trying to address? And I know that 1 way could be, you know, change 1 way to 2 way, but I do worry that there's some other being this specific, I do have some concerns, like, I know, actually, I don't know if a bus goes down Patterson, but I know a bus does go down Hilliard, and the bus actually has to go down single, it basically you straddles the two lanes because there's not enough room for it to go on either lane. And there might be just some other things that we haven't thought of. I just hate to throw out a bunch of solutions when we're that may sound good, but maybe we really don't.
Yeah, well, we tried to indicate that we're not, you know,
We did,
there is a line in there saying, you
Yeah.
know, we leave it up to the professional planners to determine the best solution. You see it kind of highlighted there, because I think we have the same thought, you know, we don't know which of these is really. Like, there are lots of things we don't necessarily know, and we're trying to give examples. We pulled examples from things brought up specifically at the safety forum, as well as some other things that we talked about in the community. Is that a?
Yeah, I
deal
hear,
with
I hear,
your
you.
concern?
Yeah, I just think that, you know, I know it's vague, but to say the deprioritization of automobile traffic. And I'm sure if I sat down and thought more about it, I could think that kind of extends from that. Because that's the way I see the issue, because I'm not a city planner either, so when I think about like, well, if we reduce Patterson to one, using that as a one-way or even two-way, there's a reason, the throughput I'm sure makes a difference, especially for how Franklin works, how 24th works, you know, this, you know, the roads on the other way.
Yeah, actually, you know, and we did try to call attention, you know, one of the points about, you know, how Patterson can serve as a model for sort of broader thing is, and this is the context in which we can maybe expand on what you're talking about, which is that, you know, the area around the university really needs to be, you know, very active transportation focused. So that, you know, that's how we want people to get to the university. Now, most of them already do. And so I think we can put in a plan about, you know, prioritizing, you know, within this area, and doing the things we need to do to the streets to do that, to make it clear that, you know, bikes, pedestrians, scooterists, one-wheelers, whatever, are, you know, this is where the priority should be. We really should be managing all these streets to do that.
Agreed.
All right. We're gonna have to move on, but,
Although we did loop this into the next item.
we did, but the next one I think is gonna take more than 10 minutes to talk
That's
about, and
accurate.
we're cutting into it. So
That's
go ahead.
We can
Yeah,
hear from Josh and Kelly and then go to the next thing.
yeah, Josh and then Kelly, and then I'll just a quick, maybe try and get some consensus on what we're gonna do next. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, we do it. I was just gonna, 2-lane one-ways are dangerous. People drive quickly on them. I live at 11th in Washington at an intersection of 2. There's a lot of throughput there. There's rarely like a line of stalled traffic. I can name you crashes that I witnessed, that I heard out my window that happened like in the last few months because it's so frequent. The point being though, but there's never like a line of traffic, even at the busiest time of the day. And I think Patterson, there would be maybe more traffic there, but these streets can handle more slower moving, safer traffic. They can handle that, or at least it should be explained that we've studied that and that's not true.
Right. Kelly.
Thank you. Just 2 things. One, in response to what Sue said, get over the religious iconography, but in Montana on the interstate, whenever there's a fatal crash, they put a white cross on the side of the road. So ignore the religious bit, but that's just like an easy thing that they're doing, and there's a lot of them and it's very visible. And then the other thing I was going to say that came up at that community forum that I don't think we've talked about here yet is thinking also about the lighting on streets. And that I know personally, when I've gone to get my son from activities at night, sometimes people just like come out of nowhere and they're wearing black and you can't see them. And I understand that's not a problem during the day potentially, but this could be something to maybe add to the conversation for planners is, are there areas, specific stretches that are really dark? And and I know that we're also balancing not wanting to have, light pollution, but is there a way that there's some sort of either lighting change in that way, or again, I'm trying to not let the perfect be the enemy of the good here. In organization like BEST, for example, is there some sort of like campaign around helping people get those like flashy vests, vests that have lights, or like a little thing you can clip on your bag that has a light. Just like, is there a partnership that could happen with an organization like that? Like there could be a fundraiser or something to hand these things out to people so that it's not just lights on the street, but also like lights on people.
Hollis is about to say something, but I think I may anticipate it. There are organizations in town that already do that.
The city has our See and Be Seen program, and we partner with LCOG to do this like massive flood of lighted materials and vests and stuff across the community, but like it's definitely an uphill battle to get people to wear reflective materials. Like it's not cool. It's not easy necessarily when it gets dark to have your light on you or have your reflective vest. So it's definitely something we can like continue to work on and maybe like push even further.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely an issue, Kelly, and I think that's on the agenda. That is on agenda for some of the organizations like the one you mentioned as a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shift.
Shift. Oh, right, Shift. Right, good point, Hollis. Yeah, Shift is actively involved in that too.
And LTD and the University of Oregon.
Yeah,
Both
like I say, this is
Yeah.
definitely one that there's,
Yeah.
people are very aware of this problem. A lot of
Yeah.
council service agencies, whose people are out there without lights and have to
It's also
cross the
pretty-
99 and.
It's like an easy win. It's like
Yeah.
you just buy the stuff and give it to people and it makes us feel really good, like we're making a difference.
Yeah. All right, well, here's what I would like to do. I mean, we've gotten a lot of feedback here. We had a couple of changes we wanted to make anyway. I hate to wait for a whole nother month, and what I suggest, if it's okay with everyone, that capital project subcommittees meeting Tuesday, we try to work this into the letter, these ideas, send it out for review, and if no one complains, then we go ahead and send it forward.
You need a motion?
Yes, I need a motion.
I'll move it. I'm gonna make the motion my way. I very much like the fact that we're writing a letter, and I would be fine that if you wrote it as an ATC letter.
Okay.
So I make a motion that we let the subcommittee make the changes as we propose, and that we sign it as an ATC committee.
Perfect, thank you, Carl.
I second that.
Second from Peter or Ash or both. Thumbs up for everyone who agrees. All right, yeah, Kelly online, perfect, unanimous. Thank you all so much. Great discussion.
But Charlie, do send out the revised letter.
I will send the
Just in
revised,
case anyone.
in
wants
case
to
there's a
review it.
strong objection, don't hesitate if you have a strong objection or concern, like you read it and it's like, that's not what we talked about. And we're totally let us know, we won't send it right away, we'll make sure that everyone's happy with it, but when you see the email, read it, just saying. Let's move on and talk about policy subcommittee and signals.
Did we get our signals back?
Oh,
CC.
was there a more recent signals letter than?
Yeah,
this
there was a
somewhere?
link, you were CC'd on that email, I believe. I could probably like manage to send it
Yeah.
to you right
It
here.
came
Yes.
it came out as a response to something. Oh, no, it didn't.
Got it, here we
Yeah.
go.
It might have yours in the, if you click. read
There we go.
forward.
I got it.
There we go.
Gonna make it all
Um,
bigger.
I think as usual, I'm let Ash lead this one unless he's gonna kill me for that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just do a real quick, this is a continuing conversation we've been having with the signals team. And for
And by
people-
signals means traffic signals, if anyone
Traffic.
hadn't.
You
picked
mean
up
the,
on
like,
that.
the traffic operations
Yeah.
team?
Yes, the traffic operations. It's the signals a team under the traffic operator.
Not really,
I would
really,
call the signals,
yeah.
okay, so I'm calling them the wrong thing.
That's
But they're
okay.
responsible for the traffic signals and crosswalk signals. This is a conversation we started with them last year for people who weren't here, where we were requesting that they make some changes to the way crosswalk programming works to make pedestrians more of a priority. And so we were making three kind of specific policy recommendations, which was A, have crosswalks come on automatically whenever it's possible to do so. You know, so pedestrians, at the moment, a lot of intersections, pedestrians, if they arrive during a green light, they can't go with the traffic. They have to push a button and wait for an entire cycle, which a lot of pedestrians will get impatient and jaywalk in those situations. So it slows down pedestrians and creates an unsafe situation. We were requesting automatically turning on the crosswalks. We also were requesting leading pedestrian intervals. That's where the crosswalk comes on a couple seconds before the green light, so pedestrians have time to get into the intersection, specifically where there's a lot of turning vehicles or just a lot of traffic in general. That can improve safety. And then the other thing we were requesting is that crosswalks last as long as the green light. There's a lot of intersections where the crosswalk ends early, but while the green light keeps going in the same direction, it just doesn't seem, it seems to be slowing down pedestrians for no perceivable benefit. So we communicated those recommendations to them, and we had offered some examples of some intersections that we thought could be improved by these actions. And they came back, there was a big meeting with some people from transportation planning, and they agreed to make they went and changed all the intersections we had listed as examples. They did not, go and change every intersection in the city.
They did change a lot, though.
They changed a lot.
Yeah.
But the follow-up was they actually were very receptive to our suggestions, which was the specific suggestions we had made, which was awesome. And they said they were open to us making more recommendations for specific intersections. So what this letter is basically we put out a survey to the ATC asking for any other intersections that could benefit from this treatment, and this is a compilation of that list. And I got the ones that you requested, Hollis, in there as well. And then we also reiterated our general policy, the 3 items that I mentioned. So that's at the end of the letter, and our wish was just to send this on to them.
Great. I hope everyone had a chance to look at it. I did have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Did anyone, I'll do those real quickly and then see if anyone else does as well. But one is, I will have mentioned, just I've been passing earlier that recall wasn't possible along 6th and 7th in a lot of places because of the signal infrastructure being.
I want to ask a follow-up.
It really depends on the intersection though.
Okay, because I saw a number of.
That is what we're, we are
Yeah, I was
requesting.
curious, a lot of them, most of them do have buttons. If it has a button, does that mean recall?
If it has a button, it's a different situation. It's a more modern signal. There's a lot in downtown that don't have buttons. And those are the ones that are stuck on timer, but each signal has its own limitations. So that's why it's worth an ask.
And for people that were here, like recall, that I don't find that term very intuitive. Recall
No,
means
it's not.
recall means turning on the crosswalk automatically.
Yeah.
So yeah, when they say add recall.
The old signals are not the ones we're having trouble with in this letter, because the old ones always turn the pedestrian signal on because it's just a timer. And so it's the new ones that are the ones we're calling out as having trouble, and hopefully they can fix.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are definitely buttons at Blair, and you definitely have to wait forever past it.
I'd be really curious to see what they have to say about Blair because I get stuck there all the time.
And it's terrifying to cross with a car turning.
Oh, yeah.
It's stressful and it's unpleasant to stand on that corner, those 2 corners. So I'm definitely curious what they have to say. Yeah.
My second question, I had added a couple of, actually, let me go to Kelly first, since I got one in, and I see her hand up.
Thank you. I would just second that Blair is horrible and it takes a million years. I had a question about, I think it might be like Blair actually. So I have to go up Hawkins every day, and it's one of the old silver buttons. And I think Willow, you might have said something earlier about those ones, but that's another one that it seems to take like an inordinately long amount of time to change. And honestly, it sometimes even seems to take multiple cycles. And that so there's obviously a sensor for a vehicle turning, like if you're traveling west and you want to turn left up and go up Hawkins, there's obviously a sensor because that light is super responsive to vehicles sitting there waiting to turn. And it seems like if you're stopping traffic to give vehicles the chance to turn left, like could there on the signals that are on the west side of the intersection, could the hand, the walking man come on if you're already stopping traffic for the vehicles? So maybe that's just an ignorant question because I don't know how those older signals work, but that one again just takes a really long time.
Is that at 18? In Hawkins?
Yeah, 18th and Hawkins. And it sometimes does not seem to be responsive to when you like hit it. Like I've timed it. I've stood there for 5 minutes and the lights have changed. Well, the man does not. So
Yeah, that definitely should not be happening. It should definitely not take that long, so it sounds like there's probably something wrong with that. Like
Oh.
deeper.
yeah,
are there
like a,
reasons? Yeah, but we can hopefully get added to the letter.
and one other thing that I noticed just real quick, when you're traveling north on Garfield, crossing at 6th, the button that is at it would be the northeast pole at Garfield and 6th is like flashing the little like red button. So I don't know that that push button is working any longer because it seems to be having problems.
Hollis knows.
Okay, great. Thanks,
This
Hollis.
is the line I added on Hollis's.
What's your comment, Hollis?
They both work.
Oh, they do work.
They just take too long.
And yeah, Kelly, in the future, if you have an issue with like a button is broken, if you call Public Works and leave a message, they're usually good at fixing that in 24 hours.
Oh, awesome. Okay, thanks
If
for
the
that.
button literally won't work. I did that last week.
Okay, great. That's good to know.
My one other question here, the Roosevelt and Seneca. I put that one on the list and I did it based on what someone else reported to me. Did anyone go out and actually check that? Or did you all put it on the list just from my comment there? Because I think maybe we should leave that off until if no one has actually been out there. I didn't unfortunately have a chance to go out myself, but I'm willing to do so in the very near future. If we want to leave it in. And the complaint was specifically someone taking the Roosevelt path who turns onto Seneca. And when they try to cross the road there, the drivers coming off of Seneca get the turn signal at the same time they go across. And, they're not particularly bike sensitive in that part of the world. And so, they're immediately having people trying to run them off the road as they try to make their way across to the Seneca bike path, bike lane. Which I also didn't see necessarily as being caught by the language there. Maybe this was someone else who put this on the list or someone else checked it and came up with something, but I did want to clarify before this one.
I put on the list, Nancy was originally gonna check it, but then I don't think Nancy ended up having to do that.
If we can pause, I'll go out and check it out and make sure the language is right. Or if we need to, if you're eager to get the memo out, we just leave this one off till the next one. Though, if it could get fixed soon, that random person I talked to would be super impressed with responsiveness.
Is this open to having things added to it? Because I do have one other suggestion, one that's been a pet peeve of mine for a while.
Yeah,
Okay, Coburg at Cedarwood.
I think that
I think we dealt with that last time.
Did we? Okay.
There's part of it's still not working,
Oh, really?
because I just biked through there and
Oh, shoot.
It's when they give the green to the people coming off 105, you're still
Yeah.
stuck there as a cyclist.
Yeah.
You just have to know the light. Yeah, it doesn't-
They tried to do that. That signal physically can't do that.
Okay.
So they have to upgrade it. Yeah.
But they did make it, because that has two signal
Yeah.
phases, right? There's the 105 and then there's also the Coburg Road, and they did add a recall for Coburg Road.
Yeah,
Coburg
Yeah.
Road.
yeah.
But not 105,
The
which feels
105
so
only comes
silly.
off first, and so you
Right.
get there and you're sitting there,
And
you're
you're,
like.
and you're wondering why you can't
Why
go.
can't I go? On a road where it's,
I
yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Every day.
And they tried it, but the signal's too old to
Yes.
take that many requests. Yeah.
Okay,
And that's also like in the signal boxes, there's like a certain number of ports. And when we did the pedestrian recall for that first phase along Coburg, I think that took the like remaining port. It's kind of how they described it to me. That's definitely simplified. So I think when it hits its full, now all the ports are hitting and it can't do any more requests.
okay, if I could say, we've got 7 minutes to do at least 15 minutes worth of stuff.
Well, I just
So-
just push May's bike month to next month because it's April and
yeah.
then May is the month after
Might
that.
be a little, I think we're gonna have to, anyway, I'll just flag what it is, but first of all, just resolve this. Do we
Yeah.
want a motion to to send this forward, perhaps with one of these edits included?
Yeah, so the edits I got are is the Hawkins already in there? The Hawkins and 18th?
Yeah, Willow took good notes.
Okay, so we'll add that in and you're.
I'll go check the Seneca light.
Pockets.
Okay.
You'll check. the
I'll
Seneca.
check the
Okay.
Seneca, like, I'm trying to get out there next 2 days. We got Ryan. Ryan's making a motion to send the memo on to the traffic signals folks. Is there a second? Those who are planning to get that.
I did get told after I had you guys send the memo directly.
Yeah, I was gonna.
That we're not supposed to do that, and that has to come to me first, and then I can send it to them,
Okay.
so just FYI when you.
I was gonna talk to you about.
Okay.
that, with some additional like questions on like.
Okay, we could talk.
All right,
Sorry, go ahead and.
So-
take your vote.
second?
Yeah, I see.
Okay, Peter seconds, all in favor? Yeah, Kelly's online, Alice, okay, very good, we'll send the memo with the edits. All right, to wind up this meeting, so we had on the agenda May is Bike Month, annual event sponsored by, who runs May is Bike Month, is that?
LCOG is kind of
Yeah,
the
the
leader,
lead.
but really it's webikeLane.org, and LCOG doesn't really like make themselves flashy, it's very much just like May is Bike Month, and organizations across town are involved.
Are all
Yeah.
part of We Bike Lane.
Mhm.
So last year, we had an infrastructure ride that we did out to view one of the upcoming projects. We could do that again. I think rather than try and talk it through tonight, we will put it on in April and make it a last minute addition to the May is Bike Month calendar. If we decide we'd like to do something, but if anyone has a great idea of something the ATC would like to do for May is Bike Month, we should do that. Project updates and information share. Willow, did you want to say two quick things?
I did cover Coke Street when I was going
That's true,
over
yeah.
it here, but I did have one new thing that came into my inbox
Oh,
today.
okay.
Stuart from land use planning had come and talked to us about urban growth strategies. Him and Leah gave a presentation. And he just sent me the most recent urban growth strategies update. And he was like, please share this with ATC because he just wants to keep us in the
Yeah.
loop about what they're working on with urban growth strategies. So anyway, I have an email drafted that I'm gonna send to you all from Stuart with the update. So please look at it. And if you have any questions or comments for Stuart, or for me, feel free to reach out.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting work that they do, and
Mhm.
it's fun to have Stuart chat.
So I'll just send on that. So it's in your inboxes.
All right, thanks. BPAC share out. I've actually lost track.
We
of who
actually
they're-
have our BPAC.
Well,
liaison.
I was going to introduce Brenda Huey, right? I got it right. Is our official BPAC liaison. And so for those of you who didn't know, Springfield has a bicycle pedestrian advisory committee. We try to share. Last year, Peter worked with them to come up with some recommendations of joint interest in the connections between Springfield and Eugene, which was awesome. And those went to different places. And I actually saw, I commented to Peter in the STIP list, there were actually some projects that looked like they'd been taken right off the list, though he tells me they were already kind of in on Springfield's agenda before that. So I think when we do the BPAC share out, it's usually like our person who's been at BPAC comes to talk to us, or
I
is it
was not
BPAC?
there though, so.
Okay,
yeah,
so
I-
Brenda, anything
Yeah.
you'd like to share from BPAC?
So we had a meeting yesterday, kind of trying to project our next year's worth of items, or what we want to kind of tackle. We're gonna try to, I think what we're gonna start is like a particular area in Springfield that has trouble from getting one area to another, and then maybe the next year going from that part to the next. We're seeing that Pioneer Parkway to River Bend along that part, that area, not real safe as far as that goes, and trying to come up with some ideas. So that was one of the things we talked about last night. Another discussion we came up and we're talking about, which I was really hoping you guys would bring up, is e-bikes and e-scooters and how they're been taking over and causing hindrance or.
Conflicts.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that's one thing we're just kind of starting, because there could be, I can see in the future, I work in the insurance industry during the day. So I do see other cities and states more regulating, whether it be printing insurance and, we're just kind of starting that topic and what to think and kind of throw out and share. What you monitor or whatever you want to say.
We come to enough of these, probably every third, that's, these bikes come up in some form
Yeah,
or fashion.
yeah. I mean, they're great, and a couple of our members use that for transportation back and forth to work, so it's awesome. I live out in the Thurston area, which I'm excited about some of the things that are gonna go out that way, so I can ride better. But in the morning when I'm coming onto Covert Road, there's one e-bike that comes through there, like, if I hit it right at the same time, I know I have to keep an eye out both ways, because he does not stop at lights. And so, that'd be interesting.
Wow. Well,
The state did just pass, I think it was like yesterday or the day before, they passed a new House bill that sort of provides some additional clarity around electric vehicle, like, not electric vehicles, electric micromobility. So I have your email if you want me to share that with you,
Yes,
just,
that would be
or
amazing.
I can actually share it with all of you, because it talks about like what e-scooters are and what e-skateboards are, and lowering the age for certain classes, and like what an illegal electric micromobility device is, like the electric toy motorcycles, and stuff. So that's all been really clarified at the state level, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, enforcement's the problem.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Will, please do send that out. I'm sort of vaguely aware of that, but hadn't, in following up on other things in the legislature, I totally had not followed up on what happened with that, so I would be very
Yeah.
curious to see.
Okay.
Please do send it out. Brenda, welcome, and thank you so much for being here and for sharing, and we'll, and Peter, are you still representing us to BPAC,
I
or?
might have a class that conflicts with it, so if someone else would be willing to.
That's a call out. If anyone wants to go to P-PAC, think about it.
Yeah.
Yes, when's your next meeting?
It's, so it's the first Tuesday.
Every month?
Second Tuesday.
Second Tuesday, every month?
Every other.
Every other?
Well,
So is April and a month your meeting or not?
I think so. I just got some emails from Peter, so I'm assuming there's some coming up. I know we have one in April. He
Okay.
scheduled me, so.
Gotcha, all right.
Okay.
Different. All right, well, thanks, everyone. Great meeting. And capital project subcommittee meeting this Tuesday. We'll probably try to get the room in the library again. And
And I'm gonna
5:30.
be gone
5:30.
on before our next. Yeah.
We can schedule it without.
I would recommend doing that, so I was gonna say, we could do it next.
Yes,
week,
bye,
but I
Kevin.
recommend just doing it same date and time without.